Hello, my name is Anneshia Freeman. I'm also known as the locksmith because I make keys for locks in the mind. I'm a master's level therapist, and my specialty is cognitive restructuring, meaning I specialize in exposing and challenging dysfunctional unconscious beliefs that make decisions for people without their conscious awareness. I also provide people with tools, real tools to help them reprogram their minds with functional beliefs. Welcome to episode 3 in my Facebook and YouTube live series entitled, Was It the Trap or the Cheese? What's Your Cheese? So, even though this is episode 3, each episode can stand alone. So, you don't have to have seen episodes 1 and 2 in order to benefit from today's subject. So, whenever you hear me use certain terms during any of my lives or recorded series, I use certain terms interchangeably. So, if you hear me say lies or issues or unaddressed issues or the buttons people push, I'm referring to the same thing. I'm referring to dysfunctional, unconscious beliefs that cause people to engage in self-defeating behaviors repeatedly, despite the consequences, despite what they logically, consciously know they should do. So, today we're going to talk about the trap of seeking external validation via performance and accomplishments. So, a lot of people, because of unconscious beliefs and scripts from their childhood, they've been programmed that the only way they can obtain certain recognition or approval or acceptance is through external validation, because they were not programmed to believe that they had any type of value within themselves. So they try to attach themselves to people or things or money or accomplishments or material possessions in order to feel valuable. So that they become trapped they become snapped in the trap of seeking external validation. So we've talked about other ways people do that in episode 1 and 2. So today we're going to focus on how people seek it via performance and accomplishments. So first I want to talk about how these beliefs, these unconscious beliefs, are programmed into people's minds during their formative years. That's why they call childhood the formative years. That's when the unconscious self-concept is programmed. That's when people's unconscious mind is programmed. Now, it can be affected later in life, and that's what cognitive restructuring is all about. But the initial programming happens during the formative years. So today, I'm going to talk about 2 unconscious beliefs that cause people to seek validation externally via performance and accomplishments. There's more than 2, but we're only going to talk about 2 today. So the first one we're going to talk about is your value as a person is based on your latest and greatest performance. Remember, the belief is unconscious. People who struggle with this dysfunctional belief, they wouldn't walk into a room and say, hello, I think that I don't have any value outside of my accomplishments or my performance. So if I have an off day, I'm going to feel less valuable. I'm going to feel worthless. If I don't have a continuous stream of accomplishments, if I'm not constantly stacking accomplishments, I don't feel valuable. A person wouldn't say that unless they've done some work in understanding their unconscious belief system. So this is one. Another dysfunctional belief we're going to talk about, or lie, as I say, I also call these beliefs lies because they are. Another one is you have to prove yourself to others. Now, there's a unique dilemma associated with this particular belief, because it's not so much what the belief is saying, it's what it's implying. Because there will be times when a person is applying for a job or seeking to be promoted from one level at the university to another. A person will have to prove that they have certain credentials or skill sets, or they've retained enough information to go to the next level at the university. So we're not talking about that. You do have to prove those types of things. What I'm referring to is people who struggle with a belief that makes them believe they have to try to prove something that is true or something that may not be true to other people. And they go through a lot of antics trying to prove to people what things that may be true or may not be true. So let's talk about how these beliefs are instilled into a person's mind during those critical foundation years. So first we'll start with this lie. Your value as a person is based on your latest and greatest performance. So there's two main ways that these beliefs find their way into people's unconscious mind. One is via maltreatment and the other is via observation. So let's talk about this lie. If a child is raised in an environment in which the child has someone treat the child as if they are only lovable or acceptable or tolerable when the child is performing well, such as doing well in sports. For example, let's say a child is in gymnastics. They have to do well in gymnastics, or they play baseball. They have to do well at the baseball game. And if they don't, then the adult or whatever other person is involved in the instilling of the belief, they'll act like they're upset with the child or like they don't want to be bothered with the child because the child didn't perform well. Same with grades. If the child is struggling in a particular subject and someone acts as if they're less valuable, or if they're upset with the child, instead of assisting the child or trying to help the child with to get a tutor or something, if they act upset when the child is struggling, but they validate the child if the child gets all A's. And parents should be concerned about children's grades. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people who were raised in environments when the only time they were shown any approval or any acceptance is when they performed well. And if they didn't perform well, they were rejected. They weren't encouraged, they weren't challenged, they were rejected. This is one way that this belief can be instilled. Another way this lie that your value as a person is based on your latest and greatest performance can be implanted is via observation. So if a child is raised in an environment in which he or she observes other people being shown approval, love, and acceptance for performing well and stacking accomplishments, then via observation, this belief is instilled. So now we're going to talk about how this belief, you have to prove yourself to others, can be implanted into a person's mind during childhood. So let's say that a child is being compared to others and told that they need to demonstrate they can do certain things like other people can, exactly like other people can, at the same skill level, even if those things are not within the child's forte. So I'll give an example. So let's go back to the sports example. So let's say a child is more artistically inclined, or they have gifts and talents related to STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math. They're not into sports. They don't even like sports. They're more into other, like, artistically inclined or more inclined to the sciences. And if a parent is trying to push the child into sports and it's not something this child wants to do, they're not inclined to do it, they're not interested, they're not really well, even with a lot of coaching, they don't do well, but the child is being programmed that they have, and compared to other people who are more athletic, then the child is being programmed, you have to try to prove something to people that may not even be true, and whether or not it's true is irrelevant. You just have to try to prove yourself to others. See how these two beliefs work together? Your value as a person is based on your latest and greatest performance, and you have to prove yourself to others. Another way this belief can be implanted is via observation. So let's say a child observes others jumping through hoops, trying to prove something to individuals that may or not be true. For example, if the child observes people trying to prove they're nice because someone insinuated that they're not nice. So they see somebody, they observe somebody was like, I am nice. See what I do for people? See what I do for people? Let me do some more stuff for people. And so they say, oh, so if someone doesn't believe something about you, or if someone says something about you that may or may not be true, you have to try to prove to people what, that what they're saying is not true, or try to prove who you are to people. So this is another way that this belief can be implanted into a person's mind during those critical foundation years. So let's talk about adulthood. So if these dysfunctional beliefs, if there's no intervention, if there's no cognitive restructuring, these beliefs will follow people into their adult lives, making decisions for them without their conscious awareness. And that's where we get to the trap and the cheese. And so people who have had these types of childhood experiences, they get cheese no ties. Like people get hypnotized, they get cheese no ties. And so the cheese is external validation, being recognized and celebrated for their accomplishments. Now, once again, there's nothing wrong with like wanting to be acknowledged for your achievements. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about people who've been programmed that they have no value intrinsically. There's nothing valuable inside of them. So they have to stick accomplishments and performance to themselves in order to have any type of worth. Or to be recognized or accepted by people. And so here, let's talk about the cheese, then we'll talk about the trap. So what is the cheese connected to seeking external validations because of these dysfunctional beliefs? So one example of the cheese is people say, congratulations, you're awesome. Wow, what an accomplishment. Bravo. People can become addicted to that, where their whole focus is on getting the next wow, that was awesome from other people. And so they may even sacrifice in what they need to be doing in other areas to focus on stacking one accomplishment after another accomplishment after another accomplishment. And I'm familiar with all of the things I talk about on my lives because I had to heal from them all. It's not that I'm just a master's level therapist. I'm a person who had to heal from these trauma-based beliefs. And I can tell you this was what I'm talking about today was in my top 5 issues that I had to work through. And these are very debilitating issues because when it's the performance trap, it's hard to work on an issue that you can get awards for. All of my degrees are summa cum laude. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, straight A's all the way through college, but it was some other things that suffered in my life because I was still in the process of healing from these beliefs, these dysfunctional unconscious beliefs. So another cheese connected to seeking external validation via performance and accomplishments is being addicted or cheese no ties by the nods of approval from someone or from a group of people after a major accomplishments or performing well. Some people will go through all sorts of antics and sacrifice a work rest play balance just so they can have that nod of approval. They become addicted to it. It's external validation. I heard a great man say that he doesn't, like, he's not moved by people's reactions to his accomplishments. He said because people are some people, I'll put this some, he didn't say some, but I'm gonna say it. Not everyone is like that, but some people are fickle. They'll say yay on Monday and boo on Tuesday. So individuals who's caught up in seeking approval and validation from other people, they are putting themselves in a position where a lot of other people have a lot of power, whether they acknowledge their accomplishments or whether they downplay their accomplishments. That's too much power for somebody to have over an individual. Another example of the cheese connected to seeking external validation via accomplishments is people become addicted to others acknowledging that they have underestimated them. So they'll be like, oh, wow, you really did that. I didn't think you could do that. Wow, I am impressed. I underestimated you. I didn't think you had that in you. So then people are there they become addicted or cheese no ties into I gotta prove something to people. I have to show them that I'm this or I'm that, or I have to show them that I have worth and value because I can do certain things. And so those are examples of the cheese. Now let's talk about the trap. When the trap snaps. So what's the trap connected to seeking external validation? Working yourself to the point of exhaustion, trying to stack accomplishments. I have heard horror stories. I had healed before it got this bad with me, but I've heard horror stories about people who became overwhelmed to the point where they just couldn't take it anymore because they were working so hard. They didn't have any balance. All they did was work to stack accomplishments. They had no joy in life, no happiness, except when they got that momentary nod of approval from someone. But that nod was for the last accomplishment, because see, this unhealthy belief doesn't say your value as a person is based on your performance. It says it's based on your latest and greatest performance. So this belief will cause people to get caught up in the trap of that last accomplishment. That didn't mean anything. That's over. You got to get another accomplishment. Then tomorrow you're going to have another accomplishment. And even if they go after accomplishments that take years to obtain, as soon as they obtain them and they get the clap and everyone is like, yay, the belief will say, well, now you got to start working on the other accomplishment. So they don't even have time to enjoy that what they've accomplished. Another example of the trap is not having, and I mentioned this early, not having a work, rest, play balance, because the individuals who are addicted to seeking external validation via accomplishments, they don't have most of them don't have a work, rest, play balance because they're constantly working to perform and stack accomplishments. And in order to have a good quality of life, individuals need a work, rest, play balance. Everyone's equation is going to look different depending on where they're at, what season they're in, and what their goals are. But you need one to have a good quality of life. And if you don't, that's a surefire recipe for depression. Another example of the trap that snaps on people for seeking external validation is beating themselves up for having an off day or needing a break or for not being good at something that they were never designed to do. So it causes low self-esteem. Yes, a person can be highly accomplished and have low self-esteem, because if they have an off day, then these beliefs say, you're worthless, or you're people are disappointed. People are not approving of you. You're worthless. And sometimes some people, because I've been doing this work for like 22 years, and all of these beliefs can affect people differently. I've had some people that say, Ms. Freeman, it's not so much other people, it's my internal dialogue that I'm looking for that approval from. There's a lot of different terms for that internal dialogue that I use in my group. But they say it's now, for a lot of people, it's external. They really need it from other people. But some people who isolate because they have issues that also make them isolate, and they have these issues, they're like, I'm not seeking external validation. And to a certain extent it is. It's because their internal dialogue has like this personality. So they're seeking validation from their internal dialogue. But in most cases, this is people looking for approval from others and recognition from others because of their latest and greatest performance. Another way that people get snapped in the trap is spending time, money, and energy trying to prove themselves to individuals who are determined to keep their negative assessments of them. So that's this belief. You have to prove yourself to others, and your value as a person is based on your latest and greatest performance. But this one is the primary one. You have to prove yourself to others. That cause that particular type of trap. So what's a more functional belief? So I'm going to read two functional beliefs that challenge these lies. So first, I'm going to read a functional belief, and these are my cognitive restructuring cards, and they have the cognitive distortion on the front and a more functional belief on the back. So a more functional belief that challenges the lie, your value as a person is based on your latest and greatest performance, is my value as a person is directly related to the criteria that I authorize for self-worth. I am not an animal being forced to perform for the roar of a crowd. There is nothing wrong with desiring recognition and approval, but my worth as a person is not dependent upon my latest and greatest performance. I am the one making the hoops, pouring gasoline on them, lighting them, throwing them in the air, and then jumping through them while others enjoy the show. My value is determined by the criteria I set. Others are only capable of making me feel good about myself for a short period of time. After the applause wears down, how do I feel about me? Am I okay with myself, or do I need to read my bio or my resume or my CV before I go to bed? I appreciate and accept myself. That's a way to stop getting snapped in the trap. So now I'm going to read a more functional belief that challenges the lie you have to prove yourself to others. What a waste of time going around trying to prove yourself to others. First of all, you are powerless over what others decide to think about you. People make determinations about others with little or no evidence, and you probably do the same. So skip the indignation. The most important person in your life, the one who makes decisions that affect you, is the one you should be trying to prove yourself to, and that person is you. You have to earn your own respect and admiration. Once you have that intact, what others do or do not think about you won't have the same impact it once did. Another thing to consider is that you may be trying to disprove something that is true. That's another waste of time and energy. If it's true and it's negative, admit it and quit it. Earn your own respect and trust. That's what counts. So that's all for episode 3 in my Facebook and YouTube live series entitled, Was It the Trap or the Cheese? What's your cheese? If you would like more information about my work, or if you would like some of my products, a little later today, I got to run to some appointments. A little later today, I'm going to put the link to my store page on my website in the comments. You can actually buy a set of the 100 most commonly seen victim beliefs and a set of the 100 most commonly seen villain beliefs on my website, along with the workbook. It comes with a workbook. Now, when I say victim and villain, I'm just distinguishing between two modes of beliefs. I'm not referring to people as victims or villains. These are belief systems. I also have a workbook entitled The Adult Reenactment of the Childhood Script that helps people identify unconscious scripts from their childhood, negative ones, and help them rewrite positive scripts. I'm going to do a 4-week series online on Zoom for people starting in January. So I'll also put the link to the information page for the 4-week series. You'll get this workbook, and then you'll meet with me online 2 hours on Saturday mornings from Saturday from 11 a.m. I believe to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I'll put the link in the comments where you can sign up. You'll get the workbook and those sessions with me, and I will be providing much more information than what's in the workbook when we go over, when we meet online. But if you just want the workbook yourself, you can buy it in my website, and you can go through the material on your own. I also have a workbook entitled My Unaddressed Issues Make My Budget and My Schedule. Each one of these dysfunctional beliefs has a budget and a schedule. They make demands on people's time, money, and energy. So if you already have my card set because you've worked with me before, you already have this package, you can just order this workbook. But if you don't have the cards, I have the option where you can buy this workbook with the cards. The workbook won't help you if you don't have the cards. So you can buy the workbook and the cards if you prefer that combination as opposed to this one, or if you already have the card sets, you can just buy the workbook individually. I have the option to do both on my website. I also have a book that has 31 cognitive restructuring articles that were originally featured in a newspaper column. I had a biweekly newspaper column for a number of years in a particular newspaper, a multicultural newspaper, and I wrote from the vein of cognitive restructuring. So here's 31 articles. The name of the book is What's Really Going On. That's on my website. This is also on Amazon, and so is this workbook. This is on Amazon and on my website. And earlier this year, 2024, I released my life story. The name of the book is What Was I Thinking? The Anneshia Freeman story. And so I'm a survivor of horrific childhood trauma, drug addiction, and I also healed from a trauma-based belief system. So this book is also available on my website, and it's available on Amazon in ebook or paperback. So that's all for episode 3. I look forward to seeing you for episode 4, which is the last episode next Tuesday. I started a little late today, but next week I'm back at the regular time, 12 o'clock p.m. to 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Enjoy the rest of your day.